Hi, this is Eternal King. Today I want to go kind of more of an in-depth discussion on play styles and, kind of why my approach to LOR is different than everyone else's. And whether it's infuriating, whether it works for you, doesn't matter. I'm going to walk you through it and just kind of explain the depth of this game and how there's multiple approaches. So let's talk about Eloy Jarvan. It's currently taken me to about rank 1 in Diamond in Standard. It'll very easily take me the rest of the way to Masters. I talked about this deck before. I said it had the potential to go the distance. It is going the distance. It's doing very well. It's doing well into things like Jace, Jace Heimer. It's out-tempoing Jace Heimer. If someone high rolls with Lurk, that can be rough. But again, they're not going to high roll every game. And if they don't high roll, then you actually have a game into them a lot of the time. And then it does really well into a lot of the mid-range shells as well. Certain things are going to mess it up, specifically Frostbite. And, even Poro, Freljord Poro runs Frostbite. So Frostbite's going to be rough. Buried in Ice is going to be rough, stuff like that. Those are losing games. You just take it in stride and keep playing. But into, those mid-range, those control matchups, sometimes into the aggro matchup as well, you're going to do pretty well with this deck. It's got a lot of tools. It's very responsive. So let me walk you through it in the way that I play. Watchful Idol is a 3 of. It's very obvious why this card's included. What do you want me to say? If you draw it, you're happy on 1. If you don't have it, well, you still have a game, but it's not going to feel quite as OP in an Eloy shell. Answered Prayer, I take this over the equipment 100% of the time. It has the pass flexibility that you don't have with the equipment. Just like being able to say, pass, 5 mana, spawn 4. And knowing, and this is again, the nice thing about Standard and knowing exactly what tools your opponent has. A 4/4 Tentacle can't be removed with the likes of the Shadow Isles card. They don't have Vile Feast because that's not in Standard. So in Shadow Isles, the only removal card they have, it's basically a Culling Strike. Everyone, the name escapes me right now, but it does only kills things with 3 power. So there's so many good pass routines with Eloy that people don't exploit. So I definitely do that. I pass aggressively in this mid-range shell quite a bit. I'll just be like, sure, absolutely, I'll take that. The other card that allows you to pass aggressively is Eye of Nakaboros, right? Sometimes you Eye of Nakaboros twice on 1 turn for the open swing, and the board's clear, You're just really hammering home that I'm going to draw 4 cards on the open swing and have a 4/4 and push 4 damage, and there's nothing you can do about it because you've been, passing on tempo, and you don't realize that I have these tools. So I've got the 2 Eye of Nakaboros. I've got the Answered Prayers. I'm very happy to pass in a lot of situations. Form Up, obviously an amazing trick, the best Demacia trick. Staple card, it's basically as good as Mystic Shot, You should run this in every Demacia shell. Hired Gun, this is the best card in the deck. So Hired Gun gives you a game into aggro, but even into later games, I can't tell you how many games I've won with the long play Hired Gun. You Hired Gun the big thing that you can never deal with, or maybe you can only deal with far later in the game, but you Hired Gun it. 3 turns later, it actually wins you the game. And maybe it wins you the game, and this is a real example. I was playing a really good set against Nidalee. And so they had a massive Nidalee. They were doing everything right, swinging aggressively, doing all the tribal synergies. They had an alt win con, they were doing everything. I was definitely set to lose that game. But I had 1 out. I had a 3/1 Seize Voice, and I had a Jarvan in hand. And that was it. The rest of my hand was irrelevant. So the only play I had, and again, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, about the 3 parts of my strategy. The first part is deck building. The second part is strategy. And then the third part is, what I would call YOLO, right? So it's basically the swim YOLO. I really kind of base my play style off of swim. It's kind of a forgotten way of playing the game. But yeah, the YOLO is the 30% there. The last 30%. So anyway, Hired Gun pays off 3 turns later. And then now, so that's the deck building phase. The strategy phase is everything you do in the middle. So just kind of playing the game out, playing for value, tentacle smashing, forcing answers out of your opponent, trading. The opponent had the advantage on me the entire game, so I was literally strategizing through the blocks. So just block, 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 block. Don't let myself go down below 3 HP. Just don't, because I was really scared of Prowl, right? So just block, 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 block. I don't care about the Eloy. Kill everything on my board. It's fine. Leave one thing alive. So I was able to keep a 3/1 Seize Voice, and I had the Jarvan in hand. Smart play is to Jarvan the Nidalee. That's the Majin Bay play, is to Jarvan the Nidalee. But the swim play is to Jarvan face and drag with the Seize Voice, and you have that play thanks to Hired Gun, because that Hired Gun is paying off like 6 turns later. So yeah, that's what I did, and I won that game. I basically put them on stun and said, okay, you can either stun this Jarvan or you can die this game. That's it. Those are your 2 choices. Because again, I know that they had the value in hand, they had Overwhelm, they had all this stuff. So that was my 1 turn to win. So it was just YOLO. YOLO Jarvan to face. So yeah, that was a losing game. It turned into a winning game through the kind of the swim method, which is the deck building, part 1. Part 2 is the strategy phase, which is how you're playing out your game, all the little decisions you're making along the way. And then part 3 is YOLO, which is the YOLO is the key turn where you can win, or you can lose. So those are the 3 turns, the 3 phases of the swim method. And yeah, it's doing really well. Again, the more constrictive the meta is, the more narrow the meta is, the more OP the top end decks. You know, I talked about Eternal a lot, where it's like, okay, you can either cycle or you can scale. So there's only 2 deck, options. You can play Timelines or you can play the 2-mana cycling champs. In that situation, again, the swim method does nothing because it's all just number grinding, kind of Asperger's syndrome situation where it's just pure math and pure matchup tables, and everything's decided for you. There's nothing you can do. But in that situation, like we have in Standard right now, where things are a little more open, you have that option of basically playing something like this, which is off meta, but using that swim method to do exceptionally well with a deck that people aren't playing right now in Standard. It's not on the matchup tables. It's nowhere present currently. And yeah, again, I've got like 3 games left. I like to pace it out. I don't like to really grind ladder. I find it tiresome, but I pace it out over a couple days. And yeah, I've got a few games left to go, and we'll be hitting Masters pretty easily. Hopefully not running into too much Poros, because again, the Bird Ice is brutal, the Frostbite is brutal, but everything else in the meta should be pretty amicable to us. Again, hopefully no Hyrule lurk. But yeah, again, that's just one small portion of the meta. Everything else is going to be pretty Gucci for us. And talking more about the different cards, Shield of Durand, I mentioned this over and over again. Such a spicy card in Eloy. Like, how else do you keep your stuff alive on those games where you need to keep your stuff alive? Like, the Petrosite Broadwing needs to stay alive. The Seized Voice needs to swing but stay alive, right? Shield of Durand's your best card. You need to keep your Tentacle alive. Shield of Durand, 100% of the time. So, very good card. You need to know when not to use it, though. Like, if you're into Shadow Isles and you're just going to eat a Vengeance anyway, like, why would you Shield of Durand? So, you gotta be a little smart with it. Cataclysm sets up those brutal Eloy turns where you insta level Eloy and then swing and then do a ton of damage. So that's what Cataclysm's for. It's a straight combo card, sometimes used for straight up removal, but not very often. Also helps turbo level Jarvan, so the synergy's there, which is nice. And also again, Hired Gun and Petrosite Broadwing. They're going to turbo level Jarvan, so everything just fits together so nice in this shell where you have some aggressive scaling, somewhat. There are a lot of decks that can scale harder. You have, kind of nice mid-range control options in the Hired Gun and the Broadwing. You're just like challenging and trading up as much as you can. You have the pass flexibility with Answered Prayers and with Eye of Nakaboros. You have the removal with Tentacle Smash and with Cataclysm. You have Eloy, which is just a great champ. Burrow Lookout is obviously your big catch-up on board play. But again, you have to know when to play them. If your Tentacle is just going to get removed, it's actually better to play Lookout after your Tentacle dies than before when your Tentacle dies, right? So it's much higher value or tempo to just get the 3/3 Tentacle with the 4/3, and that's enough value. Like, that's good enough on its own. So don't be afraid to just trade in your Tentacle when it's necessary. Just play the Lookout. That's fine. Jarvan on 6, again, he challenges. He levels consistently in this shell. He can push lethal in a lot of, kind of interesting situations. I like Jarvan a lot from a design perspective. He's the only burst champion in LOR. There is no other champion that functions like Jarvan. The fact that he is both a control tool and a burst lethal tool in one, heavy 6 mana card is very unique. So I love Jarvan as a card. I think he's great. I would love to see more cards like Jarvan and less cards like Akshan, Samara, and Songbird, as I call her. I would like to see more cards like Jarvan. Less on the 2 and more on the, yes, he costs a lot, but he does something really unique. I even like Ornn. Ornn might be a Unga Bunga card, but he still does something very unique in his shell that doesn't exist outside of that card. So again, yeah, more cards like Jarvan, less cards like 2 mana just does everything for you. Because again, there needs to be an incentive to play higher mana cards. And then yeah, we're sitting on 2 Nakaboros. This is the best card, one of the best cards in a tentacle shell. But you got to know how to play it. You gotta fight for that 12 mana power threshold, and then you also have to accept that you always open with Tantrum. You open with Tantrum, and then if they have an answer for Tantrum, then you can do things like Cataclysm, the Eloy, and then you effectively get 3 attacks that turn, which is Echo levels of power. So maybe they'll answer the first attack, maybe they'll answer the second attack, but they're probably not going to answer the third attack. So there's a lot of smart decision making in a deck like this. It really isn't. For example, the current meta Poros deck in Standard is literally just play your Poros and then Buried in Ice. That's the entire game plan of that deck. Is just play your Poros and Buried in Ice. It's not even a interesting Poros deck. It's just board spam Buried in Ice deck. So in that sense, it's very functionally similar to a Timelines deck or things like that. Timelines used to run Buried in Ice. Now it's not good enough for Eternal because it wants to be faster. But it's not the interesting way to play the archetype, but it is the meta way. But yeah, no, this is Eternal King signing out. I hope you kind of get a sense of the swim method that I play with. It might seem like I'm playing, quote unquote badly, but if that's the case, why can I win every off-meta matchup with an off-meta deck? I'm clearly doing something right. And yeah, it really is the deck building phase for 30%, the strategy phase for 30%, and then the YOLO phase for the last 30%. And it's not good if you want to be the most competitive player in the world. It is really good if you want to climb off meta. It's pretty much the only way to do it, in my opinion. So yeah, have fun with it. Give it a shot. Try to YOLO out more. Try to board spam less. Try to be less degenerate, and you can still win games. It's possible. This is Eternal King signing out.